What would happen if every human suddenly disappeared? Slow version. Human beings are everywhere. With settlement on every continent, we can be found in the most isolated corners of Earth's jungles, oceans, and tundras. Our impact is so profound. Most scientists believe humanity has left a permanent mark on Earth's geological record. So, what would happen if suddenly every human on Earth disappeared? With no one maintaining them, some of our creation backfired immediately. Hours after we disappear, oil refiners malfunction, producing months-long blaze at plants like ones in western India, the southern United States, and South Korea. In underground rail systems like those in London, Moscow, and New York City, hundreds of train pumps are abandoned, flooding the tunnels in just 3 days. By the end of first week, most emergency generators have shut down, and once the fire have gone out, the earth goes dark for the first time in centuries. After the first catastrophic month, changes come more gradually. Within 20 years, sidewalks have been torn apart by winds and tree roots. Around this time, flooded tunnels erode the streets above into urban rivers. In temperate climates, the cycle of seasons freezes and thaws these waterways, creaking pavements and concrete foundations. Leaking pipes cause the same reaction in concrete buildings, and within 200 winters, most skyscrapers buckle and tumble down. In cities built in river deltas like Houston, these buildings eventually wash away completely, filling nearly tributary with crushed concrete. Rural and suburban areas decay more slowly, but in largely unsurprising ways. Leaks, mold, bug, and rodent infestations, all the usual enemies of the homeowner, now go uncontested. Within 75 years, most houses supporting beams have rotted and sagged, and the resulting calamity is now home to the local rodents and lizards. But in the post-human world, local has new meanings. Our cities are full of important plants, which now run wide across their adopted homes. Water hyacinth coats the waterways of Shanghai in a thick green carpet. Poisonous giant hogweed overgrowing the banks of London's Thames River. Chinese alliance trees burst through New York City streets, and as sunken skyscrapers add crumbled concrete to the new forest floor, the soil acidity plummets, potentially allows new plant life to thrive. This post-human biodiversity extends into the animal kingdom as well. Animals followed unchecked the spread of native and non-native plants, venturing into new habitats with the help of our leftover bridges. In general, our infrastructure saved some animals and dooms others. Cockroaches continue to thrive in their native tropical habitats, but without our heating systems, their urban cousins likely freeze and die out in just 2 winters. And most domesticated animals are unable to survive without us, save for a handful of resourceful pigs, dogs, and federal house cats. Conversely, the reduced light pollution saves over 1 billion birds each year, whose migration were disrupted by blinking communication tower lights and high-tension wires. And mosquitoes multiply endlessly in one of their favorite man-made nursery, rubber tire, which lasts for almost 1,000 years. As fauna and flora flourish, Earth's climate slowly recovers from millennia of human impact. Within 35,000 years, the plant cycle removes the last traces of life left by the Industrial Revolution from Earth's soil, and it may take up to 65,000 years beyond that for CO2 to return pre-human levels. But even after several million years, humanity's legacy lives on. Carved in unyielding granite, America's and Mount Rushmore survived for 7.2 million years. The chemical composition of our bronze sculptures keeps them recognizable for over 10 million, and buried deep underground, the remnants of cities built on floodplains has been preserved in time as a kind of technique fossil. Eventually, these traces too will be wiped from the planet's surface. Humanity hasn't always been here, and we won't be here forever. But by investing in the world without us, perhaps we can learn more about the world we live in now. Want more with original speed. Human beings are everywhere. With the settlements on every continent, we can be found in the most isolated corner of Earth's jungle, oceans, and tundras. Our impact is so profound, most scientists believe that humanity has left a permanent mark on Earth's geological record. So, what would happen if suddenly every human on Earth disappeared? With no one maintaining them, some of our creations backfire immediately. Hours after we disappear, oil refineries malfunction, producing month-long blaze at plants like ones in western India, the southern United States, and South Korea. In underground rail systems like those in London, Moscow, and New York City, hundreds of those pumps are abandoned, flooding the tunnel in just 3 days. By the end of the first week, most emergency generators had shut down, and once the fire was gone out, the earth goes dark for the first time in centuries. After the first catastrophic month, changes come more gradually. Within 20 years, sidewalks have been torn apart by weeds and tree roots. Around this time, flooded tunnels erode the streets above into urban rivers. In temperate climates, the cycle of seasons freezes and thaws these waterways, cracking pavements and concrete foundations. Leaking pipes cause the same reaction in concrete buildings, and within 200 winters, most skyscrapers buckle and tumble down. In cities built in river belts like Houston, these buildings eventually wash away completely, filling nearby tributaries with crushed concrete. Rural and suburban areas decay more slowly, but in large and unsurprising ways. Leaks, mold, bug, and rodent infestations, all the usual enemies of a homeowner, now go untested. Within 75 years, most houses supporting beams has rubble and sags, and resulting collapse heat is now home to local rodents and lizards. But in this post-human world, local has a new meaning. Our cities are full of important plants which now run wide across their adopted homes. Water heists can cause the waterways of Shanghai in a thick green carpet. Poisonous giant hogweed overgrow the banks of London's Thames River. Chinese elastic trees burst through New York City streets, and as sunken skyscraper as crumble concrete to the new forest floor, the soil at the city plummets, potentially allowing new plants like to thrive. This post-human extends into the animal kingdom as well. Animals follow the unchecked spread of native and non-native plants, eventually into habitats with the help of our left bridges. In general, our infrastructure saves some animals and dooms others. Cockroaches continue to thrive in their native tropical habitats, but without our heating systems, their urban cousins like freeze and die out in just 2 winters. And most of domesticated animals are unable to survive without us, save for a handful of resorts for pigs, dogs, and federal house cats. Conversely, the reduced light pollution saves over 1 billion birds each year, whose migration were disrupted by blocking communication tower lights and high-tension wires. And mosquito multiplies endlessly in one of their favorite mammals nursery, lobber tire, which lasts for almost 1,000 years. As the fauna and flora flourish, Earth's climate slowly recovers from millennia of human impact. Within 35,000 years, the plant cycle removes the last traces of life left by industrial revolution from Earth's soil, and it may take up to 65,000 years beyond that for CO2 to return pre-human levels. But even after several million years, humanity's legacy lives on. Cars and unyielding greenness, America's Mount Rushmore survived for 7.2 million years. The chemical composition of our own sculptures keeps them recognizable for over 10 million, and very deep underground, the remnants of cities built on floodplains have been preserved in time as kind of technical fossil. Eventually, these traces too will be wiped from the planet's surface. Humanity has always been here, and we won't be here forever. But by investing the world without us, perhaps we can learn more about the world we live in now.